The views and opinions expressed on the Craig L. Hayes Show do not necessarily reflect those of Westgate Resorts ownership or management. And now, on with the show.
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
All right, Craig L. Hayes here at the Craig L. Hayes Show, back with Rico Grippo, talking about show business and his interview and his time. We've worked his way that he's now moved to Vegas. We found out that we're actually around each other. See, 35 years later, we never even talked about this before. All the years we worked together, we never even discussed where we went to school and all the other things. So I'm finding out some things about it that are really cool. So glad to know it. Anyways, Rico, we left off. You've been asked by Vegas High School to find another school and go over to Gorman and get into their music programs. What was Gorman like? I mean, you know, it was just down the street from Fremont, basically. So we knew a lot of the guys over there, and a lot of the guys that went to Fremont, they went over to Gorman. So what was it like going to Gorman? And Gorman was Bishop Gorman was the school. It was a Catholic or parochial or whatever,
Right.
However you want to describe it. But you know,
It was a private school. It was a Catholic based parochial school, and my getting there was quite the fluke, because I had mentioned that my mother owned the attic, overlooked the ice palace, and they did public skating there. They had hockey teams utilizing that rink, and they also had lessons that utilized the ice. And some parents would go up to the restaurant and bar and have a drink or have something to eat while their kids were in lesson. And my mother became friends with the lady whose daughter was taking skating lessons, and they became friends because of her frequent visits. And my mother was explaining to her that I was invited to find another school, and that I should consider going to this school, Gorman, where her daughter went. And the short version is she went down to that school and talked to the nun about her son, who needed to find a school that would fit him. And they started talking, and she explained that she had, recently moved from the Northeast, from Boston. She goes, "Oh, I used to teach in Boston." Turned out she taught at Cardinal Cushing School, which is just down the street from where I went to school. And one thing led to another, and she took pity on me and invited me into Bishop Gorman.
were you Catholic at the time, or?
Yes.
Okay, so that was not a big. I've always wondered if you had to be Catholic to go there. I don't, or
No,
just...
you didn't actually. It was open to all. You did have to take a test to get in the school. There were certain qualifications, but somehow I avoided all of that. And whatever my mother said to the sister, the nun that was in admissions there, I got in.
But like on the test, would it be like, do you worship Satan or something like that? And that'd be a big no, I guess, coming into the school.
I think it's more scholastic based.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah, I belong to the Church of Satan. You need to find another school again. Yeah, sorry. Because today, I didn't know if it was that way back then, but I know today they draw from everywhere in this valley. You get a scholarship basically to go there. It's almost like a scholarship to go to Gorman. And that's why they have the best football teams. They have some amazing teams and stuff like that there. But they're able to do that. So, did you do all 3 years at Gorman then? I mean, all the years after he got kicked out of Vegas?
All right, so I had one small incident which required me to go to Valley High School for the first half of the year. And then I was allowed back into Gorman because I got good grades. And they allowed me to go back into the second half of the year, and I graduated with my class. So I did spend 2.5 years at Gorman.
Okay.
6 months
Well, you went to Valley.
at
That's
Valley.
pretty interesting. I went to Valley too, so there. Another thing that lines up there, Rico, I guess we were just destined to be around each other and not find out until we were both in our 60s. How about that? Isn't that cool?
I was looking for my stride. I hadn't reached it yet.
I would have to say you're probably a little bit of a temperamental guy that got into a little trouble. That's good. You know, it's okay.
Just being feisty.
Yeah, that's okay. I was too. I just never got caught. So, um, so Valley too. Wow. Then we move on to Gorman. Did the music program there. Played drums. Is that what you did most times? Just played drums in their different
Yeah, absolutely.
things. Awesome. Now I know you're a drummer. I play drums. I have fun with it. I'm not a drummer, but I can play. I can keep rhythm. I can do all that stuff, but I'm not a drummer. You're a drummer. I've seen you play before. And people have to realize playing drums is, you got to split your brain into four pieces because your hands and feet are all doing, everything's different with everything on there. It took me forever to figure out how to do that. But I still enjoy it. I find a drum set, I'll sit down and just play a little bit just to have some fun with it. But, you wouldn't want to put me in anything more than a talent show, a very bad talent show. So anyways, you go to Gorman, and your mom, you were saying that your mom, a little bit ago off the air, had met a few people from Vegas, had done shows, and when she got here, things got kind of interesting, having the location she was in and the type of restaurant and club and everything else she had. Because you were just down the street, literally, 2 blocks from this place? From the
Yeah.
It used to be called the Las Vegas Hilton or the International. You're literally 2 blocks away from this place. And we know what happens between shows and after the shows in nightclubs and stuff when the show people get off work.
Should I elaborate?
You can. It's a club. Hey, we don't close bars. Was that another thing that's kind of weird? You don't close bars at 2 o'clock in the morning.
No.
Bars stay 24/7, 7 days a week. It doesn't matter. Come get drunk and lose your money. We're not like other towns that try to pretend like, well, we're trying to make it so people don't spend all their time in bars. Really? They're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, that was not our motto at the Attic. You're paying, we're staying.
That's the bottom line right there. If you're going to pay, we're going to hang out with you.
There's a lot of people that would visit the bar. My mother had developed kind of a friendship with a couple of old timers from the past in Vegas here. There was a gentleman with the name of Jimmy Brennan. He had cinema services here in Vegas, and Terry Little also was, I believe at the time, the stage manager of the Las Vegas Hilton. And people would come over and between shows or after shows have a cocktail at the Attic. And one of the stagehands at the time, friends with Terry and whatnot, his name was Lupe Carmona. And Lupe would come over to the bar with some of the other folks from the restaurant, from the hotel, from the stage, and have a bite to eat at the restaurant or have a cocktail at the bar. And my mother became friends with Lupe, and that turned into a romance. And it was a result of Lupe's relationship with the union. He was a stagehand, and some of the other people that I had mentioned that my mother knew back in Boston, because they were traveling with Broadway shows like Jimmy Brennan and Terry Little. And my mother worked in Chinatown at a restaurant and bar there, and they would come visit after the shows. And lo and behold, my mother was now moving to Las Vegas to open up a restaurant and a nightclub. And one thing led to another. And enter into my life this fellow by the name of Lupe Carmona. And I remember one day we're doing some errands, and he's like, hey, come on, why don't you take a ride with me? And I went, oh boy, we're going to do errands.
How old were you?
I was just before I turned 18. So we're talking 78. I'm born in 1960. And he handed me a clipboard with a form in it. And he goes, here, fill this out. What's this? He goes, don't worry about what it is. Just fill it out.
That sounds like Lupe. Yeah, that does sound like him.
was an application to join the Stagehands Union. So I put this application in, and many months later, I got a call, and one thing led to another. There were a few people that later on in life I realized knew Loopy, Joe Mandel at Caesars. There was a pretty close-knit group of guys and gals that looked after one another and took who was going in and out of the union seriously. And there was no place I could go within the union when I got a call, which took its time. It was not an instant thing. You had to put some time in, that I wouldn't have to worry about getting a bad report going back to Loopy. So it kept me on the straight and narrow. And
That's important. That, what you just said, was very important. And that's what so many of these people who have come into this local don't understand. It was more of a family thing. Now, granted, he was your stepdad. But it was a family thing. You didn't do things that were going to dishonor or discredit your family, that make you look bad and get back to your family and go, man, what is wrong with your kid? You know, that's what I was impressed with me with my grandfather. I don't know if you ever knew my grandfather, but he didn't put up with that crap from anybody, especially his own kids being in the local, and none of my uncles. Today, people come in here into the local, and I see that they just do what they need to do, and there's no backwards looking family, ancestry, whatever you want to call it, that's keeping an eye on them, keeping
Absolutely.
tabs on them, trying to make sure that they're doing the right thing and not embarrassing the family name.
it was instilled in me as a young man that being a part of the IATSE, Local 720 in Vegas, was an honor. And it was not something to be taken lightly. And I feared more the repercussion of letting down or disappointing Loopy and the other people that I had met, which had great impact on me to want to do better, to want to represent, and want to be somebody who said, yeah, I'm a part of an organization here, and I take it seriously. It's not a gift. It's an honor, and you have to earn it, and you have to maintain it.
Yeah, see, that's something I don't hear too often, from the people after 30 years of being here, and some of the people who've come through here. They're the first person that's ever done it, and it's like, well, you're the beginning of it. Maybe if your family gets into it, you'll be checking on them and smacking them around if they screw up, and keeping them on the straight and narrow. That's when you said that, I was like, man, there it is right there. That's why we've got some issues within our local on some of these things that we need to, I don't know if it's a mentoring thing. I don't know what the answer to it is, other than it, like you say, it was an honor. It wasn't put in your head. It's an honor to be in this local. It's not something that you just take for granted or take lightly, So, wow, very cool. And I wanted to go back a little bit, just on a second, and talk about when you said between shows. Now, for those people that don't understand, in Las Vegas, there used to be 2 shows a night, 8 o'clock and midnight. And so between shows, you had about 2 hours between shows. Today, you're lucky if you do 1 show a night, 4 or 5 nights a week. Most of the stuff is just towards the weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, maybe a Sunday show, 1 show a night. It's changed so much from when we were youngsters and doing shows. It's I don't even recognize showbiz hardly anymore in this town. But anyways, so I saw plenty of people, like when we were working at Splash, that we had about an hour between shows. We got done at 9 o'clock and we had a 10:30, so you had just about an hour and 15 minutes to go have some dinner or liquid dinner, depending on who you were,
Indeed.
or chemical dinner or whatever. Having 2 hours plus, 2 hours and 15 minutes, whatever it was,
That could lead to trouble.
and it did for so many of those guys, This place, I know, we've heard the stories about the guys that worked here at this hotel, and like I said, go down to the attic and have a cocktail or 2 or 7 or 10, and then come back and do another show.
It was just a way of life. It was common. It was,
It was showbiz.
yep.
And I don't condemn it at all, because it's just it was show business is what we did. I didn't ever do it. I'm a teetotaler. I don't drink, but all these guys, I don't know I never could figure out how so many of these guys could go out and drink between shows and come back and still do a perfect show.
It's real talent, huh?
Oh man, and we'll get to those times in a little bit here and talk about those days. Those were back Riviera and such. But so you got into some calls when you were 18 years old. Where were you working? The first place that we would have crossed paths would have been at the MGM Scenery Shop,
Correct.
building Hollywood Jubilee. Let's see, how do I ask this question? Where were you spending your time from 1978 to 1980 when they started building that show?
I wound up working for the Maxim Hotel across the street from what was the MGM then. And I had been in the union for a few years, had minimal experience. Loopy would, once in a while, if needed, get me on a load out, as it was a star policy house. It was always loading in, loading out. And other than that, I needed regular, steady work. So I got a job at the Maxim Hotel.
Was that non-IA or was it an IA hotel?
Nope, it was a relatively small hotel at the time. Only had one tower. In time, they built the mirror tower to it, and I worked in food and beverage.
Oh, okay. So you weren't working in the little. They had like a loungy showroom.
Yeah, they had a very small setup there, but
Yeah.
it was under the radar. It wasn't a big venue. They would set it up with chairs and present it as a theater, but it was just something they created, and it took time for even that to happen. And my experience in the food and beverage industry was related to being involved in the attic restaurant and lounge. Because it was my mother's business, I had to work for free, and I had to work.
Child labor, free child labor.
I remember one time I was asked to change out a beer keg. Of course, I was underage, and I go into the big fridge and I wheel out this keg of beer, which was really heavy, and I knew how to undo the tap and take care of the pressure and all that. And there was a guy at the bar, and he calls my mother over and he says, "What's that? What's that kid doing?" She goes, "Oh, that's my son." He goes, "Well, why is he behind the bar?" And it turned out he was a Metro police officer.
Oh boy.
And my mother says, "Well, I tell you, I've got two choices. I can keep him here and I can let him do little chores and keep my eye on him, keep him out of trouble. Or I could have him out on the street where I don't have an eye on him and see what happens there." The policeman kind of laughed a little bit. He goes, "Oh, okay, sorry I asked."
I see nothing. He did a Sergeant Schultz right then. I see nothing. I know nothing.
That was Vegas at the time, you know.
Oh yeah.
I don't think she could have given him a better answer than,
Vegas during those years, I remember, if you were drunk, if you had too many, stuff like this, the cops would help get you home, and because drinking was just part of the culture in this town. Now, if you had one joint on you, you were going to jail.
Oh, that's old Ralph Lamb.
Yeah, I mean, that's how serious it was. It was like, if you're drunk or something like that, it's a party town. You're supposed to be drunk, But you had one joint on you, a spliff or whatever you want to call them. Oh, put your hands behind your back. We got a special place for you. We got some bracelets for you to wear. So Weird, isn't that just weird? And the funny part about it is, then you'd go down to California, down to L.A., and it was just the opposite. It was like if they caught you have it with a joint, they'd be like, crush it out, and they'd just grind it into the ground and say, now get out of here. But if you had one too many drinks, put your hands behind your back. So I think those people came here just because they could go drink and have fun and go crazy and not have the cops be such jerks to them. But over time, everything changes. No, so you did food and beverage. You did at the Maxim. That's pretty cool. I never worked there. I don't think I even went in there really. No, I don't think I've ever even been in that hotel. Now it's called the Westin or something like that.
Right. I remember getting a call. I was driving a shuttle because they were building the new mirror. I call it the mirror tower, the second tower of the Maxim Hotel, and the pool was closed down. So I was driving a little shuttle van over to the hotel right around the corner, and I worked for tips basically. I mean, I had an hourly salary. I think it was around $3 an hour. And
Righteous dough. Yeah. Righteous money, man.
And I got a call from, actually not a call, I got the front desk where I was dispatched from. They said, hey, your mother's trying to reach you. You need to call home. We didn't have, the beepers and the cell phones and all that.
No, we didn't have anything like that, yeah.
So I call home. They go, oh, the union's trying to get a hold of you. I'm like, the union? She goes, yeah, 720. I'm like, oh, yeah. First thing I do is I call Lupe. I said, hey, the union's trying to call me. I'm like, do you know what's up? He goes, well, what did they say? I said, well, I haven't called him yet. He's like, well, come on. What's the matter with you? Pick up the
I would
phone and
expect
call
Lupe to
him.
go, what the hell you calling me for? You should be calling them, you moron.
Well, that's pretty much what he said, paraphrasing.
Knowing Lupe, yeah, I could see that's how he'd actually have said. So.
And turns out I had a call to go over to Hallelujah Hollywood as a stagehand. And that's the first time I was out of my environment. I wasn't over at the Hilton doing some menial task that they had me do, but I had to stand on my own 2 feet and put my blacks on and go over and do a show, which was fascinating to me. And that was when Hallelujah Hollywood was just on its last final weeks, and people were jumping ship, and they needed somebody to do a show that night. And as it would be, I took the call, and I got a call back the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and I spent 2 weeks doing Hallelujah Hollywood as Joe Extra at the MGM. And during the day, I was taking classes at UNLV, and I was in the marching band, and we had a marching band rehearsal relatively early in the morning out in the field. And we start seeing this smoke starting to come out. And it turned out it was the MGM catching fire. And I have distinct memory of some of the people in the drum corps section hopped into this guy's Pinto, this Ford Pinto, and drove over to the fire to see what was going on and watched that for hours. And all I can think of was, I just started working there. It's going up in smoke. Well, what turned out to be the fire that everyone knows about in 1980 also turned out to having to take the scenery that was slowly being built and brought in for the change of what would then be Jubilee, is how I think it was 6 months after that I got a call to go over to the scene shop, and if I'm not mistaken, you were there during the day, and they started a night crew, and I got to go over in the night crew. But I went over as an apprentice. And as an apprentice, you had to work for half wage, and you got to learn.
That was the big thing right there. Yeah, you got to learn about this stuff.
Spent time in that scene shop. I learned a lot. Some of those stagehands that taught me, some have passed, some are still around. It was, again, it turned out to be an honor. And I remember Lupe telling me, like, hey, don't screw this up, shut your mouth, do what you're told, learn something.
That was the advice all the old guys give it. Shut your mouth and do what you're told and listen and learn. There you go. Lesson over.
And it worked.
It works. Works just fine. Works just fine.
Nowadays, I think people take offense to that concept, but
Yeah.
it had its purpose back then, and it worked.
It did. So, yeah, you worked the night shift because we were doing I think we were doing 10-hour days during the daytime. We did 10-hour days, 6 days a week, and only 8 hours on Saturday. And we'd already been there for, I don't know how long we'd been there. So I'd been there, 6 months or whatever it was before the fire. And then others had been there for like 4 or 5 months building. And yeah, like I say, and we were wrapping it up. November, the show was supposed to be over in December, rehearsals then open, on the first of the year somewhere. And so almost everything was over there. We didn't have but just a few pieces left. And then the fire happened, and everything that was over there came right back and had to be completely stripped, repainted, recleaned. Oh.
Yep.
And they needed all hands on deck on that one because that was just, amazing amount of work. Because literally it was basically done. The show was done. I think we still had the bull was still, the big
Yeah, that
Ten
big
Commandment bull
collapsing
was
bull.
still there.
The
And the
ship.
Titanic, because that was too big to get over. Those pieces were too big to take over there at that time. And so, but all the hanging scenery and the stairs and stuff, they had gone over and were there, and and I just remember it came back and it was just soot, black soot. Everything that had been painted. I mean, you know how gorgeous that stuff was painted. I mean, it was just, the scenic on it was absolutely gorgeous. And it came back and everything was just soot black.
Yes.
And it all had to be what could not be salvaged, because some of the stuff we had, Brady made a compound for getting rid of smoke and soot and stuff like that, that you could, we could take it outside and we could spray it off and spray the stuff on it and it would take care of that. But problem is it doesn't work for everything. If there's electrical components or anything like that, everything has to be stripped down to the core. And all those months and months of putting in light bulbs and all this work, it was like rip it out and rerun everything from A to Z, and everything's going to be done. If whatever you pull out, throw it in the trash can. They threw away hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of electrical. Back in 1980, hundreds of thousands of dollars was a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that show took $10 million to put in, to build it. Today, that show would have been $150 million.
Yes, no doubt.
So that shows you the difference right now. Just unbelievable, the stuff right there. I'm going to look at my watch. Oh, we're done too now, Rico. So anyways, we're going to come back. We're in 1980. This is getting kind of exciting now. Ooh, can you feel the thrills and the excitement just getting building here? Okay, until we get back, Talbot, take it away.
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
Where does the time go?
We're literally at 1980. We got 40-something years to talk about still.